Hey everybody, welcome to Monday of the 7th week. Sorry I'm getting this to you a little bit late, but had some things going on today that I had to work with, so I couldn't make my stuff this morning, but I'm doing it now, so it'll be a little less work for you the next 24 hours because we're going to have a quiz on Wednesday, so I don't want to pile it on too much, but I do want to go over this exercise. So most of you did a really great job, and I know it's a strange way to learn this via online, and I'm not right there to give you your feedback. So I'm going to continue to give you feedback so you can correct the little mistakes you're making. Those of you that have a T-score, it makes a huge difference. I can mail you one if you'd like one. We're about done with this, so I don't think that's probably the way to go, but just be really careful when you tape your paper down that you try to keep things horizontal and vertical. It's going to help a lot. But I want to go through this. So given this exercises, and it does say down here it could be metric or English. So I'm assuming you all assumed it was inches. Many of you did come up with a scale, so I want to make sure that we understand how to do that, first of all. If we have something that's 113 inches, right? I think it says 113 end to end, and we have to shrink that down on a piece of paper, then we have to scale it. That's what it's called, scaling. A half scale, right, 1 to 2, that would take the 113 and it would cut it in half. Well, that's clearly not going to fit on the piece of paper. So really what you have to do is take your calculator. I guess you could check the 6, right? Because we know that our scale goes to 1 to 6. So what's 113? Divided by 6. Well, that's 18. So that's definitely not going to fit. So this is the process of figuring out scale. Like, how many times do you have to reduce it to get it onto the piece of paper? Now, we're just doing one view. If you were doing 3 views, you'd have to figure out like how much space for all 3 views, plus enough space for dimensioning. All right, so what I ended up doing, since we are only doing one view, I said, okay, I want it on the paper. I want it to be a nice size. I do have to dimension around it, so I don't want it too huge on the paper. And I came up with a 1 to 20. So that means, and notice I don't know if you can see that. Oh yeah, you can see that. That means that every number that I pull out of the book, I have to take my calculator and divide by 20. And then I can use just the regular 10 scale or a full inch to put it on the paper. Okay? So, 1 to 20. So for instance, the 113 divided by 20 is 5.65. So then I take the 10 scale, that's this scale, and it should be from here 5.65. That's how it works. Every number out of the book, divide by 20. All right, so I started to lay it out because several of you said you had a hard time figuring out, like, the top part that curls over, this part that curls over, where is that visible edge? Often, the object's not going to have a dimension to every geometry. It's going to give you enough dimensioning to where you can construct it. So what you had to do is either some mathematics, which some of you did that's awesome, with some trigonometry, but my suggestion to one of you was just draw the right side view, nice and light, just enough to locate where that is. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm going to show you here as I've started, and I have the front view kind of laid out here. Obviously it's not complete, but I have the dimensions on. I have a few more lines to put in, but I'm curious where this top line is. So then I started to sketch the right side view. Now, it has this dome thing, right, this circular top to it, that it does give us a radius to. It's right there, R35. R35. All right. So I take my 35 and divide by 20, and I get 175. So then I measure up 175. Actually, I measure down from the top. 175, right there. So that is this radius distance right here. Now, if we had a compass, we could just swing a compass, right, and just make that arc. Well, I don't have a compass. So we have to use some kind of a straight edge, some kind of a object to make this swinging arc. And what I'm going to use is just a triangle. You could use anything, but a triangle you can actually mark. And then I'm going to swing that radius, right? Swing that radius over to this edge. I need that edge to go all the way up. Shadows are tough. All right. So then I should be able to take my mark, line it up, find where it intersects. Right there. Okay? That. Now, I don't have a circle template that goes that big. If I had a French curve or something, right, but I don't have a circle template that goes that big. Well, that's the biggest circle I have, and it's nowhere near tall enough. So if I had a French curve, I could draw that in, kind of sketch it in. I actually do have a French curve. I could show you what one of those is. You just never really know where you need this kind of stuff, but you all probably don't. Anyway, it does give you a radius, right? That would kind of show you. And the way a French curve works is you want to find a tangency here, and you want to find a tangency here, and then you would flip it over. So it would be here, and then you flip this over and do the same kind of thing to make that full curve. But we're not drawing the right side view, so you did not have to do this, right? Did not have to do this. But you did have to locate this somehow. So you either had to use mathematics. Can't move my square. Or just kind of figure it out like I did. And then that's where this line would be. Okay? Some of you had it way at the top, really small. Some of you had it way down here. But that's where it should be. All right. Let's talk about a few more things. Many of you got focused on your dimensioning and did not name your view. Please don't forget to name your view on the quiz or exam, right? Make sure you get your center lines in, or your guidelines, sorry, and then name your view, whatever it is, front. When you're doing your dimensioning, some of you pulled all your dimensions up, like no matter what, you were pulling your dimension up. Don't do that. Like we wouldn't want to pull this dimension right here for this corner, like here to here. We'd want that down here. Not pull it all the way up here. That would be drawing extension lines through the object, and we want to keep the object as clean as possible. So a lot of times you're going to pull them out. No dimensions. No dimensions on the object. Keep all your dimensions off on the outside of your object. Okay? Remember that these visible lines are supposed to be 2 times the thickness of a center line or a hidden line. And don't forget your hidden line. Just because you're dimensioning, we can't leave off our hidden geometry. We still need the hidden geometry. So several of you left off the hidden geometry. Don't do that. Line up the dims. So if I was going to dimension this dimension and this dimension and this dimension, then I would want to line those up. And I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm going to pull that one up. That was probably too far. That one up. This one up. And this one up. And even though I'm going to dimension all 3 of those distances, right, I'm going to line them up. I'm going to line up this one, this one. Notice how I can just draw that right through. And this one, right? And remember, your arrows go on the outside, and they should touch the extension line. There's no gap there. We always want to touch whatever we're dimensioning. Okay. Like that. Line up your dimensions. Keep it as neat and organized as possible. Make those line up and look like they belong, right? And then I would put in my guidelines. Again, the T-square is super handy. And remember that you're going to dimension this with its actual numbers. Even though you're 1 to 20, if this upper area, if these are 19 and 25, then that's what we want to write them as. 19, 19, 25, okay? Line them up. Nice and neat and organized. Keep your dimensions off of your object. You did not have to do this right side view. So now that I have this figured out, I would just erase this out. So if you had centered this view, that's fine too. Just take another piece of paper down and ghost in that right side view to figure out whatever geometry you needed to figure out. But this still needs hidden lines. It still needs a vertical line down here, I think at 10. So 10 would be what? 10 would be, I know this one, 20 divide, that's a half, right? So then we come in a half. All right. And that's that lower, well, it's really a chamfer where it's a relieved corner, but that's where that goes. And then there was another one over here, okay? Now, line thicknesses. We're not really getting that, and I understand it's difficult. Let me tell you, the key to line thickness is keep your thin lines super thin and black. We need black and thin, okay? Then your visible lines don't have to get so crazy thick. But if you keep your thin lines thin, then when I go to do a visible line, like this is a visible line, then I only have to get it. Notice I changed the angle on the pencil. I only have to get it twice as thick as that. That's all I'm looking for, is that there's a difference between those two lines. Hidden lines are thin, like your dimension and extension lines. Okay? Extension lines always extend to some geometry on the object. So they extend right to it. Like if I was going to dimension this location this way, if I'm going to pull it out, then that extension line goes right to it, but there's a gap. Like, I shouldn't have that overrun there. Right, here's the corner, there's the gap, it comes out. So, I'm going to try not to dimension to the object. I'm going to try to always pull them off of the object. So this, I would want to continue out. Depending on where I'm going to pull it from, maybe I'm pulling it from down here. Okay, so then there's my gap. Here's my 1/2 inch. Maybe I'll start my my vertical, so I kind of know where it's going to end up, right up in there. So those dimension lines always touch. Like I want that to touch, but I can fill that in with my arrowhead when I place it. Okay? And I kept my text up nice and high so I didn't have to, and you'll see that I'm estimating that text height. That's fine, as long as it's consistent, that's all I care about. And then that dimension was, looks like it's 17 plus 13. So that's 30. Okay. I think those are the things that I wanted to cover and that you need to work on a little bit on this last exercise. One more exercise with the drawing, and we'll take our quiz. I'll try to look over those exercises before the quiz. So once you get them in tomorrow night, I'll look them over and give you feedback right away so you don't make the same mistakes again on the quiz. Okay? All right. Good luck, everybody. Take care.